was just reading some stuff. Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Rib after Election Day. So,
Abysmal election day.
yeah, an abysmal 11%. Um, and that's 11% with the absentee ballots.
Right.
So it's disgraceful. I mean, again, you can't really say the people have spoken anything. The only thing is that they have spoken to a little degree because uh, uh, even with this abysmal turnout, which vastly favors the incumbent, who I saw a lot of people with at the polls with when I walked the dog up at BCC, and I saw some people. There was nobody at the polls at my poll at the San Antonio Desert when I voted earlier in the morning. Uh,
And
but
often.
but uh, but you know, Coogan did not even get a majority of the vote. I mean, when you total the entire vote total, so that's kind of sending a message to people. That some of them even got off their butt, but you can't do anything until you get people uh, really engaged. And the reality is that uh, this is kind of, well, who did what and who didn't do what, and there wasn't enough. I don't think these campaigns lasted long enough. I am a big proponent of very long uh, campaigns because I believe in a concept of guerrilla war, of attrition, win through attrition. You don't have the money. Hi, Alphonse. Uh, you have to get the message out. And we've heard a lot of the pundits talking about things. This isn't successful. Isn't successful. Well, really, nothing's successful with the electorate until you can get the electorate interested enough to participate in an election. And so far, uh, the apathy, and you can say, I know that what somebody said, oh, door knocking doesn't. Well, no, nothing works. Door knocking, social media, uh, unless it's a comprehensive plan. There's more to an election than that. It's about giving people a reason to get to the polls, because most people, unfortunately, have the herd mentality, and they're going to sit on their ass and complain later. And a lot of people felt, you know, badly after the election. A lot of, but hey, you can't blame yourself if you went out there and did a little bit of work. If you put your platform out and uh, you were a lot of people told you they supported you, then don't show up. That's not your fault. Uh, in a way, I think if people would have been out there 6 or 7 months ago, giving the people a real solid uh, idea of what their platform was, and that it was about the problems for the people of Fall River, we should have had a better turnout. They all came out for Trump because everybody knew where Trump stood He took this city because we had the largest turnout in I don't know how many years, uh, and this is problematic. It's not about anything else except the fact that you got to put in the work. And I think the post election thing when they were talking about Carlos, and Carlos did 30 years. He took he did community service. He worked on a lot of issues that were really really good issues like Travassos Park, a whole bunch of things, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. So he did a lot of things, and it was saying, well, even though he lost, he'll be back in doing the public, helping the public, and go. Well, I'll tell you, if I were Carlos, I would give them a big fat middle finger. Say, you people.
They gave him the middle finger.
Yep, that's exactly right. I said, that he's worked in a lot of very, very positive things, and those weren't my words. That's not why I would vote for him, just because of what he did. It's a part of it saying he has been part of this community and doing things for no money, but he knocked on doors and people said they were supported him and everything else. Then they don't show up. Well, that's on them to a degree. If he would have gone out, I don't know if he would have won. I think if he would have gone out a lot earlier, when he went in front of the council, a lot of people covered that. There was a lot of positive buzz about when he called out the council for their inactions, talked about a forensic audit. Even, Forward Reporter and other sources picked it up. They talked about it on We Suck at Radio, that presentation. But people have the memory of a gnat, and they forgot about that already. There was a little bit of buzz, but you have to keep that. You have to create that buzz and keep that going for a long time. And the way to do that is show up for a long time. Show them that you're engaged and involved for a long time, not a month or two. And I'm disappointed in council candidates and stuff too. They've been very silent because there was no primary. To me, you can't make this a popularity contest, who you know. And we know that happens. I mean, we know that people like Pat Casey got elected all the time to council, even though it's easier because you can get the second, third, or fourth, or 10th, ninth vote on everybody because she was involved in a lot of groups. She was a groomer. She knew a lot of people through her business, and she gets people. But, the reality is that these campaigns were not long enough and did not, to me, deliver their message very, very clearly. And now we know who's in the final, and I hope that, I don't need to know what Paul is going to say he's going to do because I know that he's not going to do it because Coogan lies. There was a guy that posted something about all Coogan, the doubling the budget, the lack of affordable housing and everything else. And then one of the Cooganites got on and said he never said that high rents were good, but he did. He did. He talked about Nantucket rights because Coogan is a pathological liar. Nothing's gotten done under his administration except doubling the budget, giving out pay raises and stuff. Unless you live anywhere near a development of one of his friends, your street won't get paved. I drove down Bedford Street. The old Canton's Clunkers got a road that is the envy of the city. It's beautiful. What a beautiful paved job. My street looks like Fallujah. It has forever. I can't, I've owned this house for 50 years. They've never paved it. My taxes have doubled. My water bill has doubled. I see homeless people. I see no affordable housing. Now they're going to try to pretend they're going to build something because it's an election year. What happened for the last 6 years? I don't need to look at Paul. I know. But I want to hear I want to see what the candidate Boomer is going to say about the issues that are facing the average citizen of Fall River, the citizen that has a per capita income of $31,000 and a household income of $53,000. I want to see some identification of the problems and how they're going to be fixed, and hopefully he'll run a good campaign because and get people to the polls. We need, we need to, you know, we need to do something to show the politicians that we're paying attention, and you can't unless you get the people. And unfortunately, most people, as we've seen, they're lazy. They won't come out. They'll give you a million excuses now. Oh, I didn't show up because I'm going to wait for the final election and I'm going to do this and do that. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's a good man, and he can be proud of the campaign he ran, but he didn't run it long enough. And I can say that not in retrospect, because I told him a long time ago, as CJ did, that he had to be in this thing for about a year.
Yeah.
He had to be out there and he had to be out there delivering a message. You need to get people to the polls. And this thing of we've all got to come together and everything else. Yeah, that's fine to a degree. But you got to remember, when you're in politics, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't care if you have the same political philosophy. If you have a platform that's going to help the community, people who don't have, you don't have to agree with everything that people have. And that's the key. Recall proved that. We had people who have completely opposite opinions of politics who got together because they were pissed off at Flanagan and what he did. And we brought that message to them for a very long time. We had a long time because it took a long time to get that.
That started out with one message, okay? And that one message went right through the entire recall process. And that recall process, because people think it was just one time, that recall process began months before we actually got the paperwork.
Yeah.
Months before.
And there were numerous issues that everybody makes everything, oversimplifies it. They think it was the purple bags. The purple bags were going to be the catalyst that and the $8 million deficit were the catalyst that got people enough to meet at the Elks, that when you got the hall, and begin to talk about that. But it also took us months because they did everything they can to block the recall even being initiated. So we had months to bring that message down. We also had multiple things that we talked about. They had Flanagan shenanigans. There were 35 or 37 different things that were talked about what Flanagan did wrong. So each person could pick whatever pissed them off enough to go to vote, and they got the vote. And the reality is, from my post analysis, the biggest thing was that Flanagan promised to repeal the rainwater tax.
That's right.
And he couldn't do it because of the fact it's a federal mandate. And the thing is that's something that blew him up with a lot of the people that we got out who don't normally vote, all the property owners and the Portuguese, those and Vavus that got out there. We saw them at the polls that's true. Yeah, as I said, it was the straw that broke the camel. It was the catalyst. But it was actually more people came because of the stormwater, the broken promise of the stormwater fee, and then of course the $8 million deficit and all that other crap. Irrelevant now, because what it did was it got them. You got to get people either pissed off enough or engaged enough in what you're saying to get their ass to the polls. Whether they go there to vote against Coogan or for Coogan is irrelevant. You got to get them out, and you got to get them out by talking about issues that matter to them and talking about them often and hitting them hard and reaching out. People did, I mean, it is what it is. And, I have never been bashful about saying I think Coogan's the worst mayor we've ever seen. I don't know if this city can survive another term with him in office. And Carlos, worked hard for a few months, but it takes longer. It takes longer. And I know that Boomer Amaral it was in the military, so he knows what force multipliers are. You don't get a force multiply. You don't create a force multiplier in a couple of months. Guerrilla warfare is predicated on that. You have to get people on your side, whether they're fighting for what you believe in or because they're pissed off at the person you're fighting against, and they'll help you. And this is the thing that you don't have superior money, you don't have superior forces, you don't have superior weaponry, but you aggravate them to death. It's a war of attrition. When you're going to get an incumbent, especially incumbent with the kind of money he's got behind him, you got to get out there. And hopefully, it's already been indicated in that turnout that he did not dominate as an incumbent, because he worked at a lot. He pushed. I saw a lot of people with Cougar signs at BCC going to the polls, and he had a lot of people at the polls in the primary, something you don't see a lot. And enough people, not enough, but enough to make the thing basically a coin flip in its vote total. Now we see what happens. It's on. Now let's hope the city council candidates start showing up. We're going to try to bring people on the show, let them give us their positions. That what if they're going to do to change the city? If you're happy with the way the city goes, so be it. You'll show up. I don't think Coogan's going to get a major uptick in the final election, but it's still going to be predicated on a larger than one of his normal. Oh, Colin, you did? Okay. Was I walking the dog, or was I already in the car driving away with the dog? But you can see me there every day. So Snipe is, if you're looking for me, you know where to find me, I guess. But I've never been bashful about that. But, you got to get these people, you got to get the people engaged. And I hope these people show up and talk. We're going to give them an opportunity to come on, introduce themselves. But I want to see them say that they're going to go out and look for the people that haven't voted in a long time, because that's who you need. Paul Coogan has had 3 abysmal elections. And when you have an abysmal election, incumbents have a tremendous advantage. So if you want to take away that advantage, you got to throw Vote Builder out the window and your out of town consultants, because they don't know what resonates with Fall River people. And go to the people, bring your message to the people, tell the people and what you're going to do. Identify the problems, because we're going to have people vote in the council race. We've had somebody that has been very vocal and has talked about Paul Coogan and how badly he has handled our money and everything else, and that's Chris Peckham, former city councilor. So people who support Chris are going to probably come to the polls without even a thought of voting for Paul Coogan. But that's only one candidate. But these other candidates have got to do something, because the reality is that the city council and the school committee both are run by Paul Coogan. So you people that didn't show up, remember, even if you got rid of Paul Coogan, and if you let some of these other people get back on a school committee and back on a city council, it's not going to be much better. you won't have somebody really, I mean, being ridiculous, but hopefully, if Boomerang all gets in, he'll do something about getting an audit, about about looking at the finances of the city and taking aggressive action to control the chaos that's been created with in the city. And you got to realize this is not a single thing, like a force multiplier. There has to be a synergy. Synergy means that the total is greater than the sum of the whole. 1 and 1 is not 2. If it's a synergistic effect, 1 and 1 becomes 5. So when certain things get together, they create what in the military they call a force multiplier. You got to go out there and get the votes. And I want these council people, any school committee people that are not known, hopefully we'll get them on the show and they'll tell everybody where they stand, but they will aggressively go out and seek the votes. So, I mean, that's really all I can say about the election. I mean, am I disappointed? Always. Am I surprised? Never. People don't get off their ass until, the sky is falling. You're not being Chicken Little when you say if the people don't come out, shit is going to stay the same. Because it is. Because it is. It doesn't change unless, as Sir Edmund Burke said, I think you remember this quote, CJ. When good men do nothing, evil will prevail. Well, if you don't come out to vote, Coogan will stay in and evil will prevail.
I was going to say, isn't that what happened yesterday? Isn't that what happened yesterday?
Yeah. Well, look, he got in. He shouldn't have got into the final. I mean, the reality is that with his record, I mean, I don't know how they didn't storm. Well, I do know. I mean, I'm being rhetorical, but I know why they didn't, because that's the way, unfortunately, people are. I've had people. I had a conversation with somebody this morning who was like amazed. I said, "Don't be amazed." I had a guy one time that I talked to in the morning and said, "Don't forget to vote." And he went, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm voting for sure." I talked to him the day after the election, and I said, "Did you vote?" And he said, "Oh, I got tied up." I mean, this is why you got to campaign a lot, because you may get 1,000 promises from people that they're with you, they're going to show up, but when you're running for election, you got to run like about 200 of them are going to show up. You got to try to get as many people on your side, because a lot of them aren't going to show up when it counts. And that's the way.
And the problem is with this election, because I spoke with Carlos, people were afraid to put a sign up on their property or to come out publicly and say, "I'm going to support you," because they worked for the city and they were afraid they would get fired or they would have some retribution filed against them. This is the type of government we have.
Yeah.
This is the type of government we have. And I'm sorry, $4 cohogs are not going to save the city.
Well,
okay, and I don't want to hear, "Well, you missed the point about clean water." You didn't say I didn't say it, though, did you? No. You said $4 cohogs.
Well, it doesn't make any difference. Clean water.
No, it didn't. But you know what? The thing is, people bought into that. People bought into that.
Well, I don't think
we said on this show from day one, don't believe a word we say. Go do your own research.
Listen, look.
Prove me wrong. That's what Charlie Kirk said. That's what I'm saying. Prove me wrong.
Well, listen. It's the reality is people don't care about clean water. People who can't pay their rent, people who can't get food, people who are now living in a tent somewhere, People who are trying to scratch a living out in a city where they're making 31,000 on an average, and that's an average, and then a lot of people are making a lot less than that, and they're on the verge of, anybody. This city has people with serious problems. We have retirees that are going to lose a house that they've owned for 40 or 50 years because they can't afford the taxes and the fees, and they got nowhere to go. They're too old to move to Florida because they can't pack up and just leave. They have medical issues that they have taken care of here. I know those people personally. They call me all the time. They call us troublemakers, but when you get the people inflamed enough, we had more people in our election than Coogan's had in his 3 elections. We had more people in the middle of December. Why? Because we had time to do it, but we brought a message and we got people pissed off. You've got to wait. You've got to talk about issues. There are priorities, and these platitudes of I want clean water and the planet's going to end in 20 years. People who can't eat 3 meals a day don't give a shit about that. They want to be able to get affordable housing. They want to be able to get a city where their taxes are stable. They don't want to have to look down a barrel of now getting their rent increase because Coogan's going to bring the fee up to $75 per unit, or even just $75 again, another $25 slapped on your ass. Water rates, every other kind of rate. That's what they're interested in. And if I have to tell you that, there's a problem with your perspective. Those are the typical political platitudes. Let's all get together, sing kumbaya, my friend. No. The people in the recall weren't hugging each other and singing kumbaya. They were all pissed off about the mayor at the time was running the city. They had a cause. They wanted to change our government. The Declaration of Independence doesn't say when you all agree on something, you change a government. The Declaration of Independence says when a government ceases to work for the people have to change it. Not just the people who agree or have clean water. It's really for the people who are getting screwed over that the government's not working for. And clean water is not one of the major issues on the priority poll. Everybody would like clean water. But we're already paying a ton of money and getting overcharged for our own water. That's the problem Fall River people see with water, not the freaking Taunton River. That's the problem that the people I talk about see. I got to pay that freaking tax. I got to pay that, and they're going to raise it again. And they told me it was going to go away. We shouldn't have it in the first place. And the guy who gave it to us, because he didn't file the paperwork, is still working for the city as a consultant. And he never got fired. We missed the ability not to have the CSO bill. But Terry Sullivan didn't get the paperwork in. And where is he?
He went on vacation.
He was on vacation. We're still paying a bill. Where is he now? Consultant. No, he retired and went back as a consultant and got paid again. This is what people are pissed off about. This is what their tax, their city budget nearly doubling, and they got nothing for it. $87 million pissed in a hole. They got done. There was somebody on Facebook that somebody sent me the text. I got it here. The guy wrote a piece. It sounded like he was regurgitating everything. Yeah, they say, then people go, oh, you're being, a troublemaker. Let's listen. You bring people together for a cause. The cause is simple: to get the worst mayor in the history of Fall River out of office. I don't care if my priority is your second or third, but it better be in the top 5. And this is the problem. I don't see any focus on what is wrong with this. I can guarantee you right now, Chris Peckham knows what the priorities are in the city because I've seen a couple of Chris Peckham signs. Yeah, but when he says no taxes, that's what people want to hear. My tax rate is quadrupled. It's like, it's unbelievable. And I still got the sheet to pay. I wish I would have thought about it because I didn't think we would get to this part of it. But at the next show, I'll bring back the thing I did for going back 10 years to tell you how much your taxes actually increased. And one year it was 23%. Do you know that, CJ?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't 2.5. It was because of the TIFs and everything else that go into the tax base.
That's right.
So people think that their taxes are going up like 2.5%. They're not. They go up a lot. They never go up 2.5% because there's always TIFs. And this is the thing that's bothering people. And if you say, well, we're troublemakers and shit like that. Well, no, we're not. We're telling the truth. And these troublemakers have affected change in Fall River. Remember, the recall that we began was the first successful recall in the history of the state of Massachusetts. In the history. All the rich communities that ran recalls failed. All the people that ran it for political reasons, like when they recalled Jazel, didn't get him out of office.
And are you ready for this one? There is either a referendum on next year's ballot or legislation to allow the recall of your state elected officials.
Yeah. They'll find some way to make that illegal.
I know.
You know how they are up there.
Oh, I know.
You'll never. I don't care. Listen, the people of the state of Massachusetts voted for capital punishment, and what did they do? The governor vetoed it, and then after he vetoed it, he leveraged enough of the politicians up there to win by a single vote,
right?
And not put capital punishment because it was his personal feeling. He was anti-capital punishment. Well, I actually had a conversation with that governor at one time. And I was asked actually to be part of his campaign down here because I was, active in the union. And down here I was fairly influential in all the unions in the South Coast area. I knew all the presidents in Cape and South Coast. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry, Governor. I said, I can't, I can't work on your campaign. He said, why? I said, because you vetoed capital punishment, even though the citizens of this state voted for it. And he said, well, I'm opposed to it. And he started, I said, look, I understand your opposition. You've articulated that numerous times. However, the Constitution of this Commonwealth clearly states that you are our substituted agent and answerable to us at all times. And you allowed your personal feelings to override what the citizens of this state told you they wanted. So therefore, you violated your constitutional oath as a governor. I can't. I'm not going to work for you because you obviously have lost perspective about your personal feelings supersede the people you were elected to represent. He wasn't happy, and neither was the guy who called me into the meeting, who was a big guy on a state level. And I said, well, it is what it is. And but that's what happens when you've got to get the people, and they don't have to be. You don't have to agree with anything. As I said, a Declaration of Independence says it clearly. It says when a government ceases to work for you. It doesn't say that you all have to agree and have to be pals. You can agree on one thing. The only thing you have to agree on to vote against Paul Coogan is that the government is not working for you. That's all we have to agree on. After that, we can argue and debate all we want. But that's all you have to agree upon. That he is not working for us.
You know, I've got to give Chris Sylvia some credit, because he said that this city is run by a cadre, and I'm paraphrasing that, of single business people. Paraphrased again. Okay? It's a group of business people, a group of the rich and powerful that run the city. And they control Paul Coogan, which is obvious. Okay? Now, I personally have found too many issues with Gabriel Amaral. They have nothing to do with him personally. Nothing to do with him personally. They're his organization. They are his skirting of the law. The fact that he was elected to office and hasn't fulfilled that duty. I mean, there are several things. Okay? Oh, but wait a minute. Let me call it for what it is. He says it's half truths. He didn't say they were half lies. And again, prove me wrong. And as for people who are saying, well, you blocked him. I gave him until 5 o'clock. I said you have until 5 o'clock. He did not unblock me. He still hasn't unblocked me, but he is unblocked from this show. I let the block run for one show. It was to make a point. Okay? The cowardice isn't making the comments. The cowardice is you blocking the people and you keep making comments. I blocked you and stopped. Then I unblocked you and started again. As a politician, you do not have the right to block the constituent's voice. Coogan tried to pull that shit, and guess what? It didn't work. It backfired. I cannot, in good conscience, vote for either candidate that will appear on the ballot for mayor. So, my options are writing somebody in or leaving it blank. Leaving it blank means I automatically give a vote to Gabe Amaral.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
So
automatically leave it to go. But and you know, I'm going to say a little different. As I said, we always tell you our positions, make it clear. If it's opinion, it's not. Well, I'm just going to tell you that with me, I'm saying to Boomer Amaral that earn my vote.
Yeah.
Show me, tell me what you're going to do. You want to call me, you want to do what you have to do. Yeah, someone can run a write-in campaign. Yeah. Kind of late.
That's never worked at Fall River.
Never worked. Yeah, that's the problem. These people are so apathetic. But the reality is, I say earn my vote. Tell me what you're going to do about the real issues in Fall River. Like I said, listen, nobody is going to say they don't want clean water. Nobody's going to say that they don't want. Nobody's going to say that they do not want. To be friendly with everybody. But you got to be realistic. That's not the real world.
That's right.
There are attorneys that go into court that beat the crap out of each other in court, and then when they get out, they go for a sandwich and laugh and talk about their families. There are other lawyers who really dislike each other, and they go out and beat the crap out of each other, and then one goes out one door, the other one goes out the other door, and see you the next time in court. You know, this is what America was based on. This assassination that we saw that's being, horrifically celebrated. You don't kill people with a different opinion. You don't vote for people who you don't agree with. You can debate people like Charlie Kirk did. You can, but show me you're dealing with the problems of the people of Fall River. When I look at the school committee suppressing their own members from asking questions, and I have to give the council. I have to give the council credit at least. At least we get debate on the council. That you hear.
Although we already know the vote.
Well, in most of the time, where the bobbleheads. I got them over here. My pet bobbleheads. That's Paul and that's Brad. So we know them, and yet they still get in. They shouldn't, but they do. But this is what the country is supposed to be about, and this is how people move forward. Everybody is not always right. You may be mostly right, or you may be not even close. But as Hegel said, the way that societies move forward is two people debate, argue, whatever you want to call it, not shoot each other because they're different, have different opinions. It's a thesis of one opinion, and antithesis is the opposite opinion. And when they get together and argue for a while, like they did for our own country in the Continental Congress that had vicious debates, very lively, almost went to duels and everything else, and almost got to fist fights, creating the United States. But that great document, the Constitution, gives us the right to disagree. But sometimes if you talk a lot, you talk and debate, you actually realize that, wait a minute, some of the stuff you said is okay, and some of the stuff I said is okay, and we come up with a synthesis. That's Hegel. That's how things go. That's why our country made the First Amendment. That's why it's so important. Freedom of speech, not freedom to kill the people who have a different opinion, not the right to execute people. You realize how sick we've become in this country? There was a girl I saw on television, and are you ready for that? I don't know if you saw this, CJ. I'm glad you're sitting down. And I was sitting down when I saw it. That Mangione that shot the CEO?
Yes.
Okay. She is married to his AI. She actually went on television, and they were celebrating his terrorism charges being dismissed, but he still got murder charges, obviously. But celebrating the fact, and then said, "He's my husband. He's my AI husband, and we're planning a family." At the end of that interview, they should have taken her right to the loony bin and put her in a padded cell.
That would have been a violation of her civil rights and a violation of her First Amendment rights of free speech.
Well, no, they could have declared him mentally incompetent. Really? You're marrying an AI Mangione. I'm sorry. If I was her parent, if that was my daughter, I would have had her committed. Because this is nuts. This is nuts. She's married to an AI of Mangione. And this is what we got in this country. Then other people go, he deserved it. He deserved it? Why? Because he believes in closed borders, and he believes in, the First Amendment. And that's the irony of it. Charlie Kirk is probably the least adversarial activist I've ever seen. He invited people who disagreed with him. He didn't try to shout them down. He invited people at his rallies to the microphone to say, "Come to the microphone and debate me." And he would debate. And obviously they had different opinions. But this is what they do to people who intimidate them. Because what they do is when he brings someone up and then exposes that rationale is not right, they get upset. That's why, that's what happened to Socrates. No, they gave him they made him poison himself because why? What did Socrates do thousands of years ago? He asked people questions. They even named a form of debate after him, the Socratic method. It's like you ask questions. And this is the thing. These people would be, these people are just, I don't know, they're not, they're savage. We've lost moral compass in this country. People like that, they're a danger to society. I know this, they don't put people in a crazy house anymore. They put them back out on the street so they can stab Ukrainian immigrants in the neck for sitting there because she was white, and they don't want it. You notice the mainstream media won't ever follow up on that, but he was hurt on the car as he's walking away with his knife dripping blood. I got the white girl. That's racism. There's another thing. Look at Carlos's election. If I was a Democrat, I could make all kinds of excuses, but I don't make excuses. He didn't win. He didn't win. I could say, if I was a Democrat, I could say, well, he lost because he's got a Portuguese accent. And all the people that didn't vote for him are bigots. I could say that he lost because they used a PSYOPs campaign by telling everybody he didn't have a chance. And unfortunately, that has been proven to work. This is, you could make a lot of excuses, but there are no excuses. The electorate didn't come out. You didn't work hard enough. You didn't run the right, he had a good message, but he didn't deliver it enough, long enough, and often enough. And regardless of that, it gets back to the voter. And it gets back to the electorate. And the problem is, as I think Jefferson said, you get the government that you deserve. And this is what Fall River has done to itself. You've elected a guy who has broken every single promise he has ever made. I'm going to give you a tax break. No. I'm going to be transparent. No. I'm going to abide by the law. No. I didn't say that high rents were good. He did, and he changed. He's a pathological liar. You can go on and on and on. Somebody posted a whole bunch of a litany of things. So you look at this and say, how can people ignore this? Because people fundamentally, until this city crashes and burns, and it will very shortly, they will either, or they'll run away. They'll move out of the city. And people are going to move. I mean, I've lived in the city my whole life. I grew up in the city. I love the city. When I got out of the military, I came home. I got job offers in a lot of places when I got out, but I came home. And I'll tell you what, my taxes, when I start paying more to live in the city of Fall River, with the crime, with the terrible education system, with the things that Paul Coogan has made infinitely worse, I will put my house on the market and get out of this place. I've been fighting my whole life for in my union, for the members, fighting for the guys that don't kiss the chief's ass. I've been fighting for health care since '81. We got it. That's the only thing in the city that's working right, and I've been fighting. I fight on a retirement board all the time. So that's the way. That's my political activity. I don't have to run for office. I have run for office. I've run for retirement board. I've run for president of the union of the firefighters 14 times, and won 14 times. I've run for the retirement board. I've been appointed by the state to negotiate the health care for the city. And I put the work in. You can say, well, blah blah blah. You guys shit bullshit. I do more by mistake than the critics do. And as Teddy Roosevelt said, and I'll say this uh, to all of them, I boomerang all, run a good campaign, earn my vote, uh, do the right thing, and to Carlos Caesar and Chris Sylvia, who threw his hat in the ring, and then I commend him for saying, I don't want to do this. This game is too nasty, too dirty, and he's right. Most people really cannot take the cannot take it because this is a dirty game, and I predict that Boomer will see just how low they'll stoop. He is now the target, and they think you dug into him. Wait, you see what they do. They are going to do anything they can to.
The sad part about it is, okay, the first thing that Gabe Amaral has to do is grow a thick skin. Okay? People are not going to always agree with you. Everything I brought out is public record. All of it. Either from your own mouth or from your filings or lack of filings. You can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. That's what Chris Sylvia did. He couldn't take it anymore. He said it was just too dirty.
Yeah.
If you think what I've done so far, and by the way, I haven't stopped. If you think what I've done so far has been bad, you better get ready because I know Paul's people are going to do 100 times worse. And they're going to dig where you wished they never went. Everything is going to come out. Everything.
And that's
so if I were you, Mr. Amaral, I would get ahead of anything that you've got hidden because the skeletons in your closet will come to light.
And
that's what Paul does.
And that's politics, and it's a dirty game. So I'm gonna close my little bit here, getting it toward the end, by talking to the people who got in there and didn't win. Do not hang your head. You got in. You participated. You tried, and like I said, as far as Chris did, he said, look, the game's too dirty and too nasty, and that's okay. But he attempted to try, but now he's going to have to find another way to get into his community. So I'm going to close my little bit here by reading something that hangs on my wall. And actually, Dan Bogan and I share that because I ended with part of this quote once at a council meeting, and Bogan said, "It's my favorite. It is my favorite quote." And this is by Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena. Listen to this very carefully and never hang your head. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. You are not a timid soul. You got into the fight, and everybody involved, keep your head up. And with that, I turn it over to you.
You're right, Mr. Pereira. With 6,000 votes, nothing will change. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Friday.